Right, what should we talk about next? Boydie, it's time for Rangers. I mean, you know all this already, but let's just underline how bad it has been at the start of the new season for Boydie's old club and for Russell Martin. They sit 10th. They're still winless in the Scottish Premiership. 4 points from 5 games, their lowest points total since the 78-79 season. Only 3 goals scored. That's their lowest since that same season. And they find themselves already 9 points behind Celtic. They're in action today against Hibs in the League Cup quarter-final. That's a home game. There are protests planned at that one. I mean, the Union Bear supporters group are the ones who are going to be behind the protests today, Boydie. I mean, what they said about Russell Martin is the performances under his management are a disgrace to the standards this club was built on. Rangers cannot afford constant upheaval, but in Martin's case, there can be no debate. His failure is absolute. Are you surprised he hasn't gone yet?
I think it's going to be very difficult for Russell Martin to keep his job. You know, usually when the fans or a group of fans within, you know, a bigger set, if they go, then you can maybe say, well, it's not everyone. I was at Ibrox and I ended up coming on the show last week for 5 minutes. Ibrox was toxic last week. I mean, after 20 minutes, when Hearts scored, I mean, the full stadium was singing, you know, for Russell Martin to be removed. Hearts, obviously, then fans start singing you're getting sacked in the morning, to Rangers fans joining in, the full stadium singing you're getting sacked in the morning, and then towards the end, there's a lot of Rangers fans didn't want Russell Martin there in the first place,
and he
so
said
they're
that
already going to be angry. And then when you look at the results, but it's not only the performances haven't been great either. You know, I know that when a new manager comes in, it takes time to bed in ideas, and as I said, you could see that if there was improvement, you could see that if there was you know, a chink of light that, yeah, it's getting better. It's not been the case. You know, the team has been struggling. You know, Russell has spoken about, you know, the anxiety at Ibrox. Well, Ibrox isn't going anywhere. The fans ain't going anywhere. You're going to have to find characters that can deal with the pressures and the demands of being at a football club that have to win week in, week out. You know, and I think the recruitment, again, when I look at, you know, when you take people like Todd Cantwell, Tom Lawrence, Davies, Dowell, they were championship players, and those ones, especially the first two I mentioned, were very good in the championship for a period of time, but really struggled to deal with it at Ibrox. Rangers went back into that market again this year, and they're struggling. You know, there is no doubt people like Max Aarons, and I know that he ended up playing left-back to start with, but he was brought in to replace James Tavernier. He's failed to do that. The full Rangers fans were getting to a stage where they felt as if it was over for James Tavernier. They all want him back in the team now, and he's came back in, and rightly so. But there has been so many. Joe Rothwell has a good championship career. He struggled at Rangers, and Gassama's came in, and he's been okay. But there's been so many you know, players underperformed, and as I said, once a full crowd goes, you know exactly what's going to happen.
And the thing is, I mean, you know exactly what it's like there, particularly from a manager's point of view. It's an absolute goldfish bowl. Every move is scrutinised. And yet, and we saw this at Southampton a lot, he comes out on the front foot in post-match interviews, in build-ups to games as well. I mean, why on earth would you say early on that your players are scared? You might know that behind the scenes, but why lay that out there publicly? He doesn't help himself at times, does he?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's sometimes... I could see both sides of it, Simon, because maybe if you put it out there, the fans might then realise that, oh, we could be part of this and maybe help the players. But when you're...
But then they might look at it and say, here's a manager who's already looking for excuses.
Yeah, and that's what you can say. That's why, you know, there's an argument for it both sides. When there's only one way that matters at Rangers and Celtic, for that matter, is winning games of football. You need to find a way to win. And as I said, there is no... I mean, I know Russell came out during the week and said that it hurt him when he's saying that it doesn't look as if the team's been coached. I think he's maybe picked a lot of people up with, you know, with what they were saying. You know, we all thought that, or the majority of people in Scottish football, you would see a style of play where, you know, Rangers had struggled to break teams down in the past, but it was possession based, and you know, you'd be pushing teams back towards the goal and ask them to defend. That's not been the case. I mean, I think if you go and speak to anybody that's played against Rangers this season, they will probably say it's the easiest game they've had against a Rangers team, and that can't be right.
What did you make of what happened this week in terms of a lot being made of that players' trip? He took the Rangers players on Russell Martin to Loch Lomond for a swim. Yeah, listen, you've been a manager at Walsall. You try and find ways to rejuvenate, reinvigorate your players. Did you understand that move by him, or did you think, given the huge scrutiny on him, probably not the best move?
Well, the game's definitely changed because when I was struggling, we all went to the pub. So we didn't go Loch Lomond swimming.
Well, that'd have been a long way from Walsall.
Yeah, so no, you try everything. You got to try something. I mean, results get you, but they're under severe pressure. You know, it's hard. It's hard when you're playing in front of big crowds like that. If you're not a big player, you can fold. And if you've got players there that have been bought from places where you're not playing in front of 40,000 every week,
yeah,
it is hard. It's hard. And then you need them players to get on the ball. You don't need players running round, smashing people and putting people in the stand. What you need, the bravery of getting on the ball and keep on. If you give it away, get it again. And at the moment, when talking to Boydie, it sounds like that's not really happening. They're not making any chances. They're not getting the fans off their seats. Something's got to change very quickly. Again, we talk about Amram, about the way he's got to change his system and all that. I think the lad Martin needs to start attacking them and having more shots. You know, instead of this nicey football, get the crowd off their feet. Even if you have the first 6 shots in 20 minutes, they all go over the bar. It gets everybody up. It's too slow. I watched it at Southampton. You know, it's nice football and getting you off your seats.
Very, very briefly, Boydie, if, and it's a 5:45 kick-up, they exit the League Cup at the hands of Hibs today, is it game over for Russell Martin?
I think it's already game over. It's just a matter of when. But you know, the owners are in today as well, and they'll feel the atmosphere in the stadium. As I said last week, it was absolutely toxic, and it won't be any different today because there's protests outside against the manager and the CEO, Patrick Stewart, who's under enormous pressure now as well.